Need to focus in on specific data in your stories? Try applying filters to find the insights you need. When you're working with a story in view mode, you can apply filters by interacting with the widgets added to the page by the story designer. For chart widgets, you can focus on data points, singly or in groups, by selecting them directly in the main chart area. You can use the same process to exclude the selected members. You can also filter on specific members by selecting them in the legend, or selecting the axis labels for the chart. Once a filter has been applied, it appears in the Apply to Chart menu so you can review or delete it. For table widgets, you can select the members to filter in the rows and columns using the right-click menu to access the Filter and Exclude options. And for GeoMap widgets, you can filter the data by drawing a polygon shape, circle, or square around the desired data points. If you're creating or editing the story, you can also apply more complex filters using Builder mode. When dealing with geographical data, for example, you can add filters that restrict the data points shown on the map based on their distance from or intersection with members of other geo-enriched dimensions. For table and chart widgets, you can create and edit filters in the right side panel. You can apply a filter to the token of a dimension that's displayed in the widget, or create a new filter for any dimensions that are not currently being visualized. There are two approaches for creating a filter for a generic dimension. You can choose based on member, which allows you to select from a list. You can also choose based on condition, which enables you to show select members based on variables you define, such as members that start with a specific letter. When you add a filter using Builder mode, you can edit the settings to refine how the filter works, such as choosing whether you want to allow other users to edit or delete what you create, and how they can interact with it. For date dimensions, you can apply filters by selecting discrete members, which can be years, quarters, months, or days, depending on the granularity of the time hierarchy. Or, if you prefer, you can specify one or more date ranges. These ranges can be dynamic or fixed. Dynamic ranges are defined relative to a specific date, looking backward or forward for a particular interval. Fixed ranges represent specific members from the time hierarchy, for which you need to choose the appropriate level of granularity. You can then click and drag on the timeline to set the start and end dates, or manually set them by selecting from the drop-downs. Where you want the filters you apply in one chart to affect others, you can set up linked analysis, provided the charts share the same data source or have been linked on at least one shared dimension. For details, refer to the How to Set Up Linked Analysis in Stories video in this playlist. Where you want a filter to apply to every widget on a page, you can add an input control. The input control is based on a dimension or measure from one of the data sources used on the page. You can make all members available for selection, or choose a subset and resize and move the input control like other widgets. When you select members in the widget, the other charts update accordingly, provided they share the same data source or are linked on a shared dimension. For more details, refer to the How to Blend Data Sources in Stories video in this playlist. You can keep track of filters applied at the page level using the Filters panel. From here, you can also create filters that apply to the entire story. As with input controls, you can choose a dimension or measure from the available data sources, and choose all members or a subset. You can see that the same selection is reflected on all pages in the story. Advanced filtering is also available for filters at these different levels, which enables you to define filters that have multiple conditions. You set up each condition separately, choosing the appropriate data source, dimension or measure, and members, and choose whether you want records that meet only one of the conditions or all of them. Keep in mind that once you're back in view mode, your filter options are limited to those set when the input controls and story filters are created, which means, for example, that the story filter can no longer be removed. These are just some of the ways you can use filters to focus on the data that means the most to you. For more details, check out the links in the description and try it for yourself today.